What the fuck?
There's actually a story called Biden Shakes Hands with Staffer in Wisconsin.
That's news.
Apparently.
Now when somebody shakes somebody's hand, that's a news story.
Yeah. Well, I guess it is with, the Rona around.
And by the way, you can say fuck while we're not recording the segment, so we can still be sort
Fuck
of
yeah.
internet. We can still be kind of internet only during the
America!
during the
Fuck
breaks.
yeah! Here we come to save the motherfucking day, yeah!
And we are live on DLive and Twitch. Probably too soon for anyone to actually be tuned in, but if you were still on our channel watching our previous live radio show, we are actually back, and we are doing something a little bit different here tonight. We're going to begin recording here in just a few moments. We're going to begin recording a pre-recorded episode of Free Talk Live. And so you will, if you want, be able to watch us perform that. That's what we're going to be doing for the next couple hours here.
Now, what's the difference between pre-recorded and just recorded? Because if something's pre-recorded, it sounds like almost a rehearsal before recording.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a little repetitive, isn't it?
It is.
The Department for Redundancy Department?
Hello, Department of Redundancy Department. Hello, this is the party to whom you were speaking.
It's still funny after the 100th time.
It's true.
I've heard it. So let's just get right into the recording here. No more need to really announce what we're doing, but we do already have viewers on DLive. So thanks for tuning in there, guys. Definitely appreciate it. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Ooh, you know what? I didn't finish my archive. I got to put one more thing in here, and then we'll be ready to go. So I'm just going to I'm titling tonight's episode. So as you're watching it, this is, of course, Thursday night, but what we're going to be doing is recording our Friday show, and we'll explain why that is, I think, in the first segment.
I suspect so.
Yeah, the show.
What about Nobody Tells the Truth? Are we? Should we do that?
I think we should do that live.
Okay.
I think because what we'll do is we'll have
live from the show, or will it still be going on?
We'll have a couple hours. So at the end of the Jim Brewer comedy show, that's going to end at 10. And
okay.
So that'll be like when we
so
normally
that gives
end the
us
show.
2 hours. It gives us half an hour to get back here.
Yeah.
We go on 10:30, and we do our usual thing. Okay, groovy.
Yeah. So I think that'll work out. All right, so I'm just saving up my videos here, and we will be joining the show shortly. And we're not going to play any music on this because all that's going to be added in sort of post-production later. Our board operators at the Genesis Communications Network will put that in later as the show airs. And as long as shit doesn't hit the fan while we're at this comedy show tomorrow night, everything should air. It should be flawless, hopefully. Hopefully people won't screw things up at the network side of things, which has been known to happen on occasion.
Yeah, well, the thing about technology is it breaks.
And it's always when you're going out to a show or something like that. Something you would rather not be interrupted at, and something has gone wrong. All right, so we'll minimize the call screening software because we're not going to be taking live phone calls. Although I guess we could experiment with Discord calls. We'll go ahead and we'll throw it out there, and if somebody wants to call in on Discord, you will be welcome. If you say fuck, shit, cunt, or other things you're not supposed to say on the radio,
knob gobbling butt pirate,
we will have to stop you, and then I have to stop the recording, and then we have to edit that out and begin recording again. So it's not something
then we shall spank you.
Yeah, we can recover from it. It's not going to be the end of the world. It'll just slow us down a little bit. That's all. And this is our second show in a row, so we're on extended edition here. And actually, I got up at 6:50 this morning, so it's been an unusually long day for me.
How about clusterfuck?
Yeah, it'll be a clusterfuck.
No, can you say clusterfuck, or is
right
that
now? You can say it
now.
Right
You
now.
can say clusterfuck, but you can't say clusterfuck on the radio. Okay, because I wasn't sure if a clusterfuck was like just a type of fuck, or if it was just one word. Okay.
You can get away with saying pussy in the right or dick in the right circumstances. Like I've said, don't be a dick or don't be a pussy. But in those cases, we're not talking about the genitalia.
Well, no, because pussy is pusillanimous.
That's right.
Pusillanimous. How do you pronounce it?
Pusillanimous.
Pusillanimous. Pew?
I think pusillanimous.
What would you do if you were a pew?
Yeah.
That was.
Don't be a pew.
The classic question from Pepe Le Pew.
Aha. All right, so let me get the show prep pulled up. We'll get this thing rolling. It would help if I... So we've actually never done this before from this studio, so this is actually an experiment. All right, let's try it out. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Oop, almost. Hour 1, segment 1. This is 2020. This will be for tomorrow, which is going to be the 4th. And... Oops. Free Talk Live. Welcome to another episode of this radio program that is a bit of an experimental episode tonight. What we're doing is we're doing something we've done before, but not in this way. So at the Porcupine Freedom Festival at Fork Fest this year over the summertime, we spent 2 weeks where we pre-recorded the show. And that's because we were on a campground and there's no meaningful internet connection, and we don't want to be sitting there at 7 o'clock at night swarmed by mosquitoes. It's a lot easier for us when we're on the campground to do a pre-recorded show. We can still interact with people that are at the campground and that sort of thing, and we had a lot of fun. In fact, if you didn't go to ForkFest, we'll tell you more about that later on in the show tonight. You can learn about how you can attend ForkFest 2021, so you don't miss that. Presuming there's anything at all else to do in that year, which is one of the topics we covered last night on the show, how so many events have been canceled here in 2020, and we got into Burning Man. And in fact, the reason why we're talking about all that right now is because, well, we just finished doing that show, You and I, Nobody. It's actually Thursday.
It's true.
As we're recording this, because we're recording this episode of the show, and what makes it unusual is that we're doing the recording from our Keene, New Hampshire studios. So this is something that in all of the years of Free Talk Live, we have never done a full recorded show, I don't think, from these studios. There have been...
So normally you would just have different hosts on Friday if you were out of town? Okay.
Yeah, and except in this case... Aria is going to be working. She's always working basically Friday night. She works at a pizza place.
And most of the hosts are going.
And most of the hosts, Captain Kickass, who also can, host the show in the first seat, he wants to go to the show. So what we're doing here, what we are going to be doing live while you're listening to this show live on Friday night is we're going to a Jim Breuer comedy show. Jim Breuer, now... You aren't that familiar with this guy, Nobody, and I honestly am not that familiar with his comedy either, but I do remember him from years ago. He was in a movie called Half Baked, and it was
okay. I remember hearing about that. I didn't smoke weed at the time, so I didn't go see it.
It wasn't part of your culture at that time. I was a teenager at that time, and I certainly had smoked weed at that time in my life. And, I only saw the movie once. I went to see it in the theaters, and he was one of the, I would say, main 3 characters in the film. And he sort of always has this stoner look to him. If you pull up Jim Breuer, it's spelled Breuer. So there's a couple of E's in there that may not be where you think they are. Breuer. Anyway, he kind of always looks stoned. And that's I don't know if that's his character or what.
Oh, he's definitely stoned.
He's denied it, though. I've heard in interviews before that he's a stoner, but I don't know if I believe him. But anyway, this guy is coming to this area. He's coming here to Swansea, which is the town south of Keene. We're in Keene, New Hampshire. That's where we do this show. And Jim Breuer is putting on a performance tonight. And normally, Nobody, I don't feel like shows are that important to me. So if a band comes to the area and I don't happen to have the night off, I'm usually not going to take my night off just to go see a band play.
Sure.
It's like, whatever. It's just another band. I mean, unless I really am a huge fanatic, I really can't think back to too many times when I've actually said, oh, I should take my night off from work. Now, there have been some things I've done, like activism-related things where I felt like they were important enough. But in those cases, I had somebody fill in for me. But in this case, we don't have enough people to do the fill-in, so we figured we'd go ahead and record the show. And the reason why I thought this comedy show was important enough to take the night off of work from was because of what I heard from Jim Breuer prior to this show happening. So let me just set the stage, and then we'll get into the news.
Do we need to give a spoiler alert here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So we'll get into the news here in a little bit. You've got some story about a politician threatening people in an open hearing or something like that. So we'll get into that coming up here in a little bit. But just to kind of explain, like, why is this comedy show? Ian, you don't even know who this, you've never seen his show, his comedy shows. I saw him in a movie once. I've never seen a stand-up act from the guy. So I'm not that intimately familiar with him or his character or, whatever it is that he does. But I'd heard he was coming to the area, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I heard he was coming to one of these drive-in shows. And we had talked about some of these drive-in concepts on the air over the last few months, that this is the new normal. This is the way it is now. If you want to go to a concert, it's a drive-in concert. And
see, they need to finish defining the new normal, because I don't know what to do for the new abnormal without knowing what the new normal is.
Yeah, well, the new normal's lame.
It is.
It's pretty weak, and on its face, these drive-in shows sound pretty lame. Like, if you go to the website where they're selling the tickets for this event, it sounds so sanitized. It sounds so awful. I would not have wanted to go to this show, because when I found that he was coming to the area, I went and I looked at this website, drive-in-live.com is their site, and I was like, this sounds so stupid. There's all the social distancing. They give you 2 parking spaces, 1 space for your car, 1 space for you to, like, set up a camp chair or whatever to hang out with your friends who you bring up. You're not supposed to socialize and move around and go visit people, and there's all these rules that are associated. You can't do X, Y, and Z, and it's like, well, that doesn't sound like much fun. That doesn't sound like something worth going to at all. I certainly wouldn't want to pay for a ticket to go to this thing. But then I heard Jim Breuer on the local radio. Now, I didn't hear the interview directly because I wasn't listening to the morning show that he was interviewed on, but I know the host of this morning show. He and I kind of have a history going back. He actually, a long time ago, was screwed by the government. The host of this morning show, Parker Springfield is his name here in the area, and he got screwed over in family court, as tends to happen to guys in family court.
Yeah, it never goes well.
And so that's around the time when we happened to make acquaintances, and we've had a pretty friendly kind of business relationship here in town since then. And he let me know that he'd had this amazing interview with Jim Breuer, and he sent me a copy of this interview telling me that he was told he had to take this interview down from the station website. So he played the full thing on the air. It was like a 12-minute long or 11 or 12-minute long interview with Jim Breuer. And in this interview, Breuer goes off on the new normal, the so-called new normal. In fact, that's apparently what he's labeled his comedy tour. So he's calling it the new normal. It's got a picture of a mask, right? So on its face, it may, you may not realize what this is going to be, right? Like, you may think he's going to make jokes about the new normal, but you don't necessarily know which ones. Well, he says he is going to unload on this, that he's ready to come out and do this, because this is going to be his second show that he has done since February. He hasn't had any shows. This is a brand new tour that he's launching, and maybe we should play the actual interview here on the air, because I do have a copy of said interview that was banned from the radio. Banned from the radio station that aired the thing. Whenever something gets banned, it increases my interest. If you've got something, whether it's a banned book or a banned drug or whatever, I'm interested now. And
which doesn't always go well.
No, it doesn't.
I read that was the theory under which I read Justine by the Marquis de Sade.
Not worth it, huh?
No, absolutely not. He should not have gone to jail for that, just because it wasn't worth it. It was silly.
Well, in this case, and we don't know how good the show's going to actually be, but the interview that he did with the radio personality was pretty good. And so the rest of the story on this interview, though, is that not only was the radio host told to take it off the station website, but he had also uploaded it to his personal YouTube channel, and they came after him for that too. They told him, you have to take it down from your own personal YouTube channel. And of course, the justification for this was that they were saying, it's not your interview. Yeah, you did the interview. Yeah, you spent the time creating it, but it's not your interview. It's our interview because you did it on our time. We were paying you. You did it on our equipment, so you're taking it down. But it was leaked out, and so maybe we'll play for you this. And it's not too long. I actually I took some of the segments out of it that were more of him talking about his time on Saturday Night Live and things like that. It wasn't quite as relevant to what we're discussing here. So we'll share some of that coming up with you, plus the politician openly threatening his constituents in a hearing. Nobody's got that story. That's on the way here. This is Free Talk Live. All right, so if you're watching us on DLive and Twitch, we are doing a pre-recorded episode of the show. This is for tomorrow night's show. And if you want to join the show, you can. We will let you to get on here, but you have to keep it radio friendly. So feel free to call in on our Discord, or you can call the phone lines 603-283-6160, and we'll get you in here in a little bit. And there's going to be some downtime in this episode because we are just recording things here in the studio. So like right now, I have to save the audio that we just recorded just a moment ago, so just have to bear with me for that. And then we will resume more of Friday night's episode of Free Talk Live. Now, there will be no video on Friday and on Friday night until Nobody Tells the Truth, which will be live on Friday at probably starting at around 10:30 as we normally do. So don't miss that. That's going to be fun. That'll be post the actual comedy show. So we'll be fresh out of the comedy show when we start Nobody Tells the Truth. So we'll get to tell you what it was like. So first you'll hear us talking about it as though we don't know anything about it. And then all of a sudden we'll know everything about it because we'll have gone to it.
Groovy.
Unless it gets rated or something like that. Looks like Vincent is in the studio. Says Jim Brewer, I presume he's referring to here, had a cameo in a show, I think it's a movie called Titan AE. I believe that is an animated film, if I recall correctly. I've not seen it.
Titan AE. Oh yeah, that's a. I think it's a like kind of space opera science
some
fiction
sort of
thing,
space
right?
sci-fi thing.
Okay.
All right, so hour one, segment one in the bag for tomorrow night. All right, actually, let me see if I've got that interview still. But we figured if we're going to be here, we might as well be streaming this online for the few of you who might be interested in getting to hear tomorrow night's show before tomorrow night, if that matters to you.
Sneak preview.
Yes. Jim Brewer, here it is. Here's the interview. How do we get to it? Telegram, sending it to the studio. All right. Got it. Let's continue. I wish the counter on this recording program was easier to view. It's like dark gray, and it's really hard to see where we're at in the segment. Let me see if I can change that. How to do that. Yeah, I wish I could easily figure out how to do this, but I don't know. Well, I'll just have to keep a close eye on it. So, segment lengths, 10 minutes, 8:50, 9:50. Okay. Next segment, here we go. All right, nobody, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. It is Free Talk Live, the Friday episode here that we are recording. Honestly, we're not going to be able to take your phone calls unless you're actually watching us record it live, which we're doing on DLive and Twitch on Thursday night as we're doing this. But we're talking about why we're doing the show in this way tonight and why I was motivated to take a night off for my show. Normally, it's important to me to be here and to have someone here doing a live show because it's called Free Talk Live, right? Like we say the show's live, and so it should be live as often as it possibly can be. In this case, this event seems so important to me because, well, besides Forkfest and the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which we did a couple of months ago here in New Hampshire, there really isn't much else to do.
Right.
There's really not anywhere else you can go to be entertained. If you want to go to the movies, they make you put a mask on. I'm not willing to do that, so I don't get to go to the movies anymore. Right. And there's really not much else out there. There's not much in the way of live musical performances. The last one that I saw was Captain Kick-Ass and Aria's band at Forkfest, which was great. And the video of that, by the way, is up right now over at freekeen.com. But this is not only is it something to do, but it's something to do that may actually have some meaning to it, as far as Jim Breuer, the comedian, is expected to just go off on the new normal. Now, I've heard it's not his whole show. Like, he's got other things to talk about, surely. But it's expected to be pretty good. And I'm going to play the interview here with Jim Breuer in just a moment. This is the banned interview that was pulled down from the internet. And technically, we're not supposed to have it. But it was played on the radio, so in theory, anybody could have listened and downloaded and recorded that off the air. So before we get into that, and then we'll get into this politician threatening people openly, the story you've been holding on to since last night, nobody. We'll get into that on the way. But I do want to tell you about Bitcoin.com, and that's where you can go right now, or if you're driving, don't go now. Go later to Bitcoin.com and learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. It's definitely not too late for you to get involved in this, and you really should take the time to just get the basics down. You don't have to learn about the programming behind Bitcoin. I've never taken the time to do that. I'm not a programmer. I don't want to learn that side of things. In the same way that I don't need to know how an electricity lineman's job works, right? Like, I don't need to know these things in order to use electricity. I don't need to know all the details of how the water processing plant processes water so it can make it to my house. I just need to know that when I turn the tap on, it's going to be there. Same thing's true of Bitcoin. You don't need to know all the inner workings of how Bitcoin works. You just need to know the basics. And that's one of the things that they've got over there at Bitcoin.com. You can head there right now and go and check out the basics. Go to the Get Started section and learn it at Bitcoin.com. Or if you're not so new, you can go and you can watch their news or look at their news section over at news.bitcoin.com. Lots of good information there. So this is the section or the segment from the Jim Breuer interview. It's local radio personality Parker Springfield behind this, and I'm probably not even supposed to be giving his name out, but again, it was leaked out, and so I'm going to play it for you.
Finally, we get to have some comedy with Jim Breuer showing up at the Cheshire Fairgrounds. Drive-in-live.com for the tickets. Jim, how are you this morning, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Awesome. You know, we were on the phone earlier. We were kind of chatting before we started recording here, and you've never been to the Monadnock region. Have you been to New England at all?
Yeah, I've been to New England plenty of times.
Yeah.
Except my wife and I just came back from Maine, so
nice.
I'm all about the woods and doing nothing.
Yeah.
Mountains and woods. I'm in. This should be a wild show because I haven't done stand-up probably since February.
Right.
This will be my second show. When it's freewheeling like that, those are the best kind. So this is, who knows what's going to happen. That makes it more exciting for me.
Now, you've got a brand new comedy set. It's called The New Normal. As a comedian, are you like, wow, thank you for giving me so much material to work with?
I think I got plenty to work with.
Yeah.
I will clearly say, when it comes to the new normal, I'm 100% against that saying.
Oh, yes,
and
thank you.
The entirety of the whole mental status of how people think. And I'm going to do everything I can to beat the living snot. My job is always going upstream. And, boy, I'm going to be going hardcore up the stream that night.
That's
so
awesome.
I hope people are prepared.
No, I mean, that's a good pitch. That is that is an attractive sounding show to somebody like us, to people who care about freedom, who think this whole new normal thing is ridiculous and outrageous and tragic, depressing, sick. And that these violent government goons are just ruling over so many people and they're being so obedient. To hear somebody from Hollywood or whatever to actually come out and take a strong stand like that against it, it's refreshing. And we did hear about, it was Van Morrison. There was recent headlines about Van Morrison, who has come out against the new normal. And so to have, again, people in a position of some level of influence, people who have earned a lot of respect through the comedy and the movies and the music that they've created to come out and take a stand against this, because it's not popular.
It's surprisingly unpopular. Even the usual suspects who, I would expect to stand up against.
Who has
this sort of
disappointed
thing.
you? Who did you expect to make a stand? And didn't?
Well, I can't say individuals because, but there were. I expected to see juggalos just being like, yeah.
Do we have juggalos around here still? Is that still a thing?
I would imagine.
Okay.
I mean, it's juggalos have been a thing for a long time.
Yeah.
It may be less in fashion now than
Okay.
it was because. It couldn't be
You couldn't
nearly
miss
as
them.
much fun without Capuzzo.
Yeah, you couldn't miss them a decade ago. They were pretty obvious, but now I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, and of course the other thing was a decade ago I was bringing scads of kids out on the common for
Right, for 420.
events, and now I don't do that. So I may just not see them because I'm not where they are, but I haven't seen anybody where I'm like, oh, good, a rebel, very often,
Right.
So
it's refreshing.
Yeah,
when that
it
happens.
is. I mean, I've gotten to the point where if I see you like out in public without a mask, I might be like, hey, thank you for showing your face.
Right. So this has attracted me for a couple of different reasons. One, I like what he's saying here. And it was refreshing to hear somebody make a stand like that. So I want to see his comedy set. I think it'll be probably hilarious. I think it'll be great. He's obviously a talented comedian. He talks about later in the interview, he's had 30 years of experience at this. So this guy's he's a seasoned pro. He's on SNL. He's been in a bunch of movies. So I think he's gonna really let into this thing, and it's gonna be a lot of fun just from that aspect of it. Secondly, I want to see how the crowd handles this. Okay, because Karens aren't coming out.
Right.
Okay.
They are locked in the basement.
Right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the different methods are that they're going to be putting in place, right? Oh, well, it's a drive-in thing, and you'll have these drive-in spots, and you have to stay where you are, and no alcohol, and all these rules, right? Like there's all these Karen.
Oh, there's no alcohol?
That's what they claim, but they're not going to
So
be
we should
searching
bring some alcohol.
Yeah, they're not going to be searching
we'll do
cars,
that, yeah.
right? I can't imagine that they're going to be doing, flipping people's cars on the way in.
I suspect not, but never hurts to bring an extra bottle in case you need to buy off the
the
door
gates,
person. Yeah.
the gate guards. Let's talk more about it coming up here. What is it going to be like? Because this is the first big event that I'll have a chance to have gone to since COVID, and so it'll be interesting to see what they do. More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. What are you looking at over there?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out. There was this BBS I used to use, the first BBS I ever
Michigan?
used. Yeah, it's called Mnet. And it's actually
You mean the software is called Mnet, or the BBS itself
the
was named
BBS
that?
itself, because
That was the name of it?
Yeah, Michigan
Okay.
network.
Are they still online?
And yeah, it's I'm looking at their website now, but
Is
it's
there a
like,
Telnet connection?
yeah, you can Telnet or you
Mhm.
can SSH. The Telnet though, I got a connection refused. So the thing
Maybe
is,
it's SSH
they
only?
claim that you can connect in certain ways, but you can't necessarily connect in all those ways. So I've been trying to figure out like what is the status of this, freaking thing, and like, should I send somebody an email here, or is it just the derelict hulk of a machine? Who'd be running it? But it's everything seems to go to the point of almost working. And the only, I could connect via SSH if I had an account.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, you would connect to new user at mnet.arbornet.org, and the new user is not letting me in without a password as I would expect it to. So I'm not sure what's up with that. And then that's just something you use, like you would then generate an account with a different username and connect back.
But you were on it back when it was dial-up.
Yeah, when I was on it, it was it was dial-up. It was also Telnet.
Oh, really?
Because that was the thing. Mnet is one of the first public access Unix systems ever connected, and it was always connected to the net. Actually, dial-up lines came later, and then it became a way to connect to the net, so you could actually get email. So I used this thing over a 300 baud modem, and the funny thing about that is you could actually run, like, there's pages of text scrolling by as you're reading items on this BBS, but I didn't have to use a pager because I could read.
It was so slow.
300 baud. Yeah.
I've never seen 300 baud.
Yeah, well,
I started at 2400.
Yeah, well, that's so that's 8 times.
Yeah,
and it's dog shit slow.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
All right, let's keep it going. All right. And we are continuing here. Again, if you want to get on with us, you can call in. Just got to keep it radio friendly tonight. And then you'll be in our tomorrow night show on the radio. So here we go. This is segment 3 of hour 1. Free Talk Live. We continue here with a special episode of Free Talk Live. Special in that it's different. Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse. It's different.
This episode isn't like the other children.
We are live in that we're actually broadcasting this as we're recording it live on our DLive and our Twitch channels, which you can follow over at twitch.lrn.fm or dlive.lrn.fm. And with you in the studio tonight, by the way, it's Ian.
And nobody.
And we've been talking about the Jim Breuer New Normal show that is maybe coming to a theater near you. We're playing some of the audio from an interview that was banned from a local radio station website. The radio station got a complaint about this interview that we're going to play the rest of for you coming up here in a moment. They got a complaint, maybe more than one complaint, from some Karen listener who was upset because the host doesn't disagree with Jim Breuer.
Oh, dear. The host doesn't tell us what to think about the presentation that we're viewing?
The host actually agrees with Jim in point of fact. And which would mean that and to the host's credit, Parker, the guy that's the on-air personality here, he does a morning show. He on a music radio station. Mm-hmm. That's not a place where you do politics, right? Like it's a morning show on a music radio station. People listen to music radio to get away from politics. They don't want to hear about the issues on a morning show on a music radio station. That's just not the show that they do. But yet he has a comedian on, talking about the comedian's upcoming show, and you can't help what a comedian's going to do. A comedian's going to go off on whatever tangents they go off on. They're going to say the things they're going to say, and so the host's actual opinion on an issue comes out. And so oh boy, we can't have that. And so they told him, you got to take this down. People are offended, even though, as Jim Breuer points out here in this interview in just a moment, he thinks it's 80% of people that agree with us. Now, I don't know if that's true. I think that's a little optimistic, but I would love for it to be true that we're in the 80% on this, nobody, and that it just doesn't, there's just no evidence for it out there day to day.
Okay.
I wonder what the reality is. Like, how many of the people, and I think I asked this last night on the show, but how many of the people out there that are wearing masks actually want to? How many of them are actually frightened of COVID-19 versus those that just don't want to be messed with by the COVID freaks, the mask populace, or the police, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to say because I've always had this, I can generally pick out the weirdos in a crowd, and that's what I'm going to talk to most of the time. So I mean, I never have any idea what the normal people think.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like normal people have fallen into the COVID trap, basically. But I don't know what it means to be normal anyway. And certainly these days, it doesn't mean what it meant
And
a year ago.
is this the new old normal or the old normal?
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to play a little bit more here from the Jim Brewer interview, and then we'll get into this politician that you wanted to tell us about, Nobody, who is just openly threatening people in a public hearing. But here's some of the more.
For me, I call it the mask wars, because the town right next to Swansea is Keene, New Hampshire, Keene State College, everything else. There's a new ordinance that requires masks now. In the state of Vermont, the whole state is requiring the masks thing. So I imagine masks show up quite a bit in your comedy routine.
Your mayor must be a Nazi.
Yeah, exactly.
Some dictator in Germany. And I think all of you should wake up and throw that Nazi out of office.
Now, of course, Jim.
Can we do that?
Well, nobody could defeat the mayor in the next election, but until then, there's probably no chance to get him out.
Okay, so we can't have him recalled or shot.
You'd have to get the rest of the city council on board with that, and given that they voted 12-2 for the mask ordinance, that's not very likely to occur. And that's the thing that Jim doesn't understand. And if we'd had him on this show, and by the way, I did email his publicist, so I got the contact information from the guy who did this interview. Because, well, if he can't promote this interview, well, then let's have him on our show, and then he can go off on whatever he wants, and no one can stop us from putting that interview up. Unfortunately, they never got back to me. So that's too bad.
Okay.
I really wanted, I thought that would make a really interesting interview if we could have him, explain to him, oh, no, Jim, it's actually the city council, wasn't the mayor. In fact, the mayor in Keene is a weak mayoral position. The mayor only votes when there's a tie.
Yeah, he's basically castrated. I was going to say, the chances of my running for mayor again are actually slim to none.
I was thinking about that.
If I run, I'm going to run for city council.
I was thinking about that today. I'm glad you said that because what I was thinking you might want to consider, here in Keene, there's two types of council seats. There's the 4-year term, what they call ward seats, and then there's the 2-year term, what they call the at-large seats. Okay. So every 2 years...
At my age, I might want to go for a large seat.
Well, the at-large seats are good ones because it's 5 seats, so the top 5 vote getters get in. Which means you only have to be in the top 5 rather than being the top number 1 guy.
And I like the sound of that because that that gives a lot of people an opportunity to concentrate on me because it sounds like if it's the top 5, is it citywide?
Yes, it's citywide.
Nice. Okay, I like the math of that best.
Yeah, and so that would and the last time last year I think there was maybe 11 people in that race. So there's usually more than a handful of people running for the 5 seats, but you only have to get in that top 5 and then you get a council seat. So that'll be an interesting race.
Any idea how many votes they normally record on these things?
I have looked it up, but offhand, I don't recall. I mean, it's not going to be a general election it's not a presidential year, right? So the city council happens every other year here in Keene. So basically the years there aren't state elections, there are municipal elections. So essentially every year we've got a political campaign going on here in Keene. It's just basically nonstop.
So these are 2-year. What happens on the odd year? Because I do remember does the mayor run every year?
It's every 2 years.
The mayor's every 2 years.
Mayor's every 2. City council's every 2.
Okay.
Except for the ward seats for the city council, which are every 4.
Okay. And is it staggered years? Is that how we end up with an election every year?
For the wards, they're staggered, but the other seats are every 2. So anyway, that'll be interesting to see happen. We were playing some of this interview. Let's get back into it a little bit more here from Jim Brewer.
Have no science to back anything they're doing. If you look at Australia, they're starting to take people off the street for not wearing it. This has nothing to do with a pandemic. More people died crossing the street in Louisiana coming out of a tavern last year than what's happening now. And the quicker that people do not wake up, the quicker that you're going to be floating down the river. This is as serious as it gets.
Now, that wasn't very eloquently stated, but it is an important point. He was kind of like a double negative or whatever. He was saying if people don't wake up, it's going to be worse. Like the faster people wake up, the better off we're going to be. We need to get people to push back against this.
Yeah, and once we have a small a small rump battalion fighting back against this. I think that will attract more attention soon. The thing is, everybody wants somebody else to go out first because nobody wants to take the first bullet. Well, nobody will take it. I'll take it for the team.
Well, and hopefully people don't have to get shot over this, but, that's the way the state's going to play it.
I don't think they're going to shoot us, but what I mean by that is nobody wants to see what happens to the first person. Nobody wants to be the guinea pig. Yeah.
And I get it, but as long as you stay quiet, as long as you keep going along to get along, you keep putting the mask on when they tell you to, you're making it worse. So you have to decide when you're going to stop contributing to making this worse and when you're going to make a stand for what you believe in. Now, you don't have to agree with us on everything. It's up to you what you agree with us on. But if you agree on this one, you really need to step out there and speak out. Again, I don't mean be rude to people that want to wear a mask. Fine, go ahead, let them wear their masks. But to just speak out and be kind and be courteous and be firm in your refusal to go along to get along. We got more coming up here in moments, and don't forget you can join us online anytime at freetalklive.com. This is Free Talk Live, and we are here on the Friday night edition.
Okay. Well, this was not an off-year race, but I am showing for the at-large seats, the winners ranged from 2,700 votes down to 1,945.
When was this?
That was, actually, I think this was 20... Okay, where's the hell's the date on this? This was updated November 5th, 2019.
So last year.
So this was the very last one. I'm not sure. No, this is a bulletin board. I'd like to see the 20. I guess it's the 2019 that's the most telling because that's an odd number year.
Well, no, dude. So it's every odd year.
Okay.
There's a city election.
Okay.
Every 2 years.
So I'll be going 2021.
Correct.
Okay.
And 2023 and 2025 and 2027.
Okay, so
and
there is a 2018,
years,
but it's different stuff.
The 2018 would have been the midterm elections.
Okay.
So state elections are the even years.
Okay.
So governor, state rep, state senate, those seats, county sheriff, those are the seats that happen the even years. So 2020, 2022. And the odd years, it's always the municipal.
Okay. The other thing we might want to eyeball is we should keep our eyes open for like people retiring or something because sometimes these replacement, these unscheduled, impromptu elections that they'll have.
They usually appoint. In the city of Keene, they usually appoint one of their buddies.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can throw in your hat, but you have no chance of winning because they'll appoint one of their
because I'm not
friends.
their friend. Yeah. I'm not a member of the club.
So what they'll do is they'll appoint somebody to finish out the retiring person's term, and then that person usually runs again at the end of the term.
Oh, okay. Too bad.
Yeah, Conan has tried that before, and it never got him anywhere.
Yeah.
All right. This will be the final segment of hour number 1 coming up. And again, if you're listening on DLive or Twitch, you can call into this. We're pre-recording tomorrow night's show, but you can call in. Just keep it radio friendly. All right. Free Talk Live, we continue here on a special episode of the show, and what I mean by that is we're actually recording it on Thursday night because we're out at a comedy show tonight, the Jim Breuer New Normal comedy show that's happening here. It's his second show out. We'll look forward to giving you a recap of it later tonight when we're live on our DLive and Twitch channels for Nobody Tells the Truth, which is going to be happening later on tonight. So make sure you follow dlive.lrn.fm or twitch.lrn.fm. Hit the follow button on either one of those places, and then you'll be given a heads up if you got the app on your phone when we go live on either of those platforms. It's Ian and Nobody here in our Keene studio tonight. We've been sharing with you the audio from a banned recording, a recording that leaked out and I can't say how I got my hands on it, but at one time, the guy who recorded it did have it on his YouTube channel, so anyone could have ripped the audio off of his YouTube video before the radio station made him take it down. But it's an audio that the radio company that he works for, Saga Communications, one of the major broadcasters across the United States, they got stations in a bunch of different places, dozens of markets. They didn't want this heard. It aired on the air one time, and they demanded it got taken down. We're going to play the rest of that interview for you coming up here, where comedian Jim Breuer calls the Keene, New Hampshire mayor a Nazi. Now, what he meant to do, if he knew how the government system worked here, the terrible system that we have, he would have called the entire city council Nazis, because 12 out of 15 of them voted for this mask mandate here.
And if 12 voted the same way, the mayor didn't have to vote at all because he's just a tiebreaker. So,
correct.
Yeah, true. He's accused the wrong man.
Yep. But close enough for our purposes.
For government work.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I do want to say thank you to Keenan, who is a Free Talk Live Silver Amplifier. Keenan is a contributor to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. It is a way for you to get behind what we do here to help us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations around the country and bring new internet listeners on board with the show. So if you appreciate the work that we do and you want to help Free Talk Live be heard by more people, then please join the AMP program like Keenan has done. It's $5 a month. You can use credit card, debit card, PayPal, or even Bitcoin BTC. And you do it, get signed up, and get some of the cool perks over at amp.freetalklive.com. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com. More with Jim Breuer here. This is, again, the banned interview that they didn't want you to hear.
Yes, and I can't wait to unleash when I get up there.
This is exciting. Just hearing you talk about it already, I'm like, this is going to be a great show September 4th. And, I feel the same way you do. And I look at the stats on this stuff, man, and I'm like, okay, I get it. If you're over 65, maybe there's a concern. But guess what? When you have the flu at over 65,
you weigh 300 pounds, you smoke a lot, you can't breathe well, you have diabetes, you get the gout 3 times a year, you're 400 pounds over the weight. That's just like anything. My wife has had stage 4 cancer for the last 3 years.
Man,
I do not show up at events and go, hey, everyone, make sure you wear your mask or you're selfish because my wife and me are dealing with something. That's something we got to personally deal with,
right.
Not the world.
Right.
So that whole nonsense of you're selfish, that's just another brainwashing parakeet tool. What? The news says you're selfish. What? You're selfish. No, you're psychotic.
I mean, that's pretty good stuff right there. That is that is entertaining. I've heard it a few times now, so I'm not laughing out loud when I hear it. But man, he's not letting back. I mean, he's not holding back. He's letting him have it, both barrels on this. And this is just the interview that he did, promoting the show. So I mean, I'm expecting that he's going to really go off when he gets on the stage tonight in Swansea, New Hampshire.
I hope so.
And
I'm really looking forward to, both seeing some sort of a show,
right,
and also just listening to somebody who isn't a free keener, who doesn't buy any of this nonsense,
Right, yeah. I don't know what his political beliefs are. I have no idea.
I don't either.
I mean, I don't know if he's a libertarian or a leftist or what. But he's on the right side. He's on the right side on this issue. He's on the freedom side on this issue, from what we can tell.
Yeah.
So kudos.
Well, these days you're lucky if you can find anybody on the right side of any issue.
Well, and the other thing that I thought would be interesting about this is the way the show's going to happen. So there's all these rules. If you go on the show website, it's not his site, it's the local promoter, where you can tell whoever's making this show or the promoter of the show, they want everyone to think that it's going to be totally like COVID aware and safe and safety this and safety that. And, it's a drive-in show, so social distancing must be adhered to, all these dumb rules that just sound so lame. And if I hadn't heard this interview with Jim Breuer, I wouldn't have wanted to go, because it sounded lame. But what I heard,
but of course the big thing is he may have to do that, because if the city catches wind of what's really happening,
right,
they might not let him go on.
Well, that's the other thing, is this is actually not happening in Keene, number one. So that's a good thing. It's happening
Okay.
in Swansea, which is the town to the south of Keene.
Are
So-
they somewhat less psychotic in Swansea?
I mean, it's a
Do they have
smaller town.
Mandatory masks.
There's no
or-
mandatory masks down there.
Okay.
Although this will still be in violation of the governor's orders because the governor's orders prevent events of more than 100 from meeting without masks. So no scheduled events of more than 100 can be mask free.
Well, I'll bring my Guy Fawkes mask, and then the meeting will not be mask free.
So the thing that I thought would be interesting to see is how the audience is going to behave. Because what I heard about this promoter is all the rules are up there, but the reality on the ground is unenforced. That there was a Blue Oyster Cult show, and Captain Kickass, one of our co-hosts, met a guy in a bar who said he had gone to the Blue Oyster Cult show. And so he asked him, it's the same promoter, same location, same website, everything. And he said that no one was social distancing. People were like milling about. They were leaving their assigned parking areas, socializing. There was probably alcohol being consumed. So, like, all the things you're not supposed to do sounded like were being done.
I mean, like heroin, meth.
Oh,
crack.
I hope that wasn't happening.
Okay, so not all the things you're supposed to do, just a wide enough range that it was entertaining.
Yeah, all the COVID
Okay.
nonsense was being ignored.
Okay.
Is what he told me. So that was what one person's experience was, and I hope that we see that at this event as well, especially given the content of what will be on stage. So that'll be another interesting thing to observe. So what are the people who attend this going to be? Because again, the Karens are going to stay home. They're not coming out to this. The
Well,
fact
I
is,
hope not.
yeah, because
If they do come, we should send them home with us.
indeed.
Stern lecture.
They will be very uncomfortable, I suspect, by what is the coming off the stage as far as the comedy, is, the content is concerned. And if people start to avoid social distancing, they will not be comfortable. But the types of people who are afraid of COVID, a lot of them are not going to feel comfortable even going to a drive-in show,
Right.
even though there's all these supposed issues that have been dealt with. They're still not going to feel comfortable. So.
Just hopefully they won't be cowering in their cars, terrified of us as we,
Yeah.
gallivant or whatever. it
Or
is we
hang
do.
out. We might
Yes.
hang out with people.
We could lurk.
Right. So that we'll see, and we'll let you know when the show's over, when we come back for Nobody Tells the Truth, how it actually went. Here's a little bit more with the Jim Brewer interview.
I love it. I love it. This is such a polarizing discussion, too. I'm on your side with this. I feel exactly the way you do, but you've got so
I
many
think
people.
80% of people do, but 100% of the 80 are afraid to open their mouth.
Right.
You're going to have to soon.
Now, what's
Now,
going to
isn't
happen?
that interesting what he said there?
Yeah.
You're going to have to soon. He says,
And that was the host saying you're
No.
going to have to.
No, that was
or
Jim.
it-
That was Jim Brewer.
Jim saying, okay.
yeah.
So basically, you're going to have to, or what?
Well, that's the thing. He just sort of lets that out there, like, you're not opening your mouth now, but if you don't do it soon, it's going to be too late.
Right.
So if you care about things, if you care about, normal life, being able to see people, hang out with people, do things, enjoy things, you better speak out. You're going to have to open your mouth at some point, or else it's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah.
And I hope that
I've
people take it
actually-
seriously.
I think I've got my slogan for my city council run.
And what's that?
Vote nobody for the old normal.
Ah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, that could be good.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself, nobody. You could win the primary on Tuesday.
I could. I could, which is a terrifying prospect, but that's okay. I signed up for it. I will do it.
Yeah, it would be amazing if that happened. I mean, I don't think we should get our hopes up, but it is 2020 and anything truly is possible out there.
I'm pretty sure, though, that one way or the other, I'm not going to take office because I'm pretty sure that if I got elected, they would have me killed before they let
You think
me
so?
take the governor. I think so.
There's-
Nobody wants to see what nobody does when nobody is governor.
They're certainly doing everything they can to avoid talking about you. There was a poll recently that was done not by Free Keene. We did one a couple weeks ago, but there was one done by the University of New Hampshire, and they asked a question about who was going to vote for governor, and they included the incumbent and Karen and other, but not you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. More coming up here in
Is
moments.
there another?
Hour number 2 is on the way. This is Free Talk Live.
Next segment.
Yes, sir.
Could we make sure we do the intros ourselves?
Intros are. Oh, you mean like your name?
Yeah,
of course.
Just saying our name.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, ready? It's Free Talk Live, kicking off the second hour here of a special episode of the show. We got some news to talk about, but we've been discussing comedian Jim Breuer. We don't have him as a guest, although I'd be happy to have him. And well, maybe I won't be happy. I don't know what he's going to say on the stage tonight on his comedy show here in the Keene, New Hampshire area. But SNL level comedian. He was on SNL. He's been in movies. He's fairly well known. He's had a 30-year long. Decades long comedy career, so it'll be fun just to see a good comedian, period, to see anything at all, period, but to have somebody going off against the new normal like he is expected to do and like he has done in this little interview that we're sharing with you here, the interview that local radio station banned from their website because somebody got upset about it.
It's amazing. They will now take things off Facebook if they produce something, if you post something that you think is
it's counter,
is incorrect.
They think it's incorrect.
They think it's incorrect. Yeah, like they've decided that this Kyle kid, he's a mass murderer. And therefore, you can't say anything positive about him on Facebook, or they'll take him, or they'll take it down, or so they say. I have been doing so. I've been defending him because it was a case of self-defense.
And they haven't taken your stuff down?
They have not taken me down, but they've announced that they will take. Like, I haven't made any direct posts about him though. I've commented about him, so I don't know. It's it.
Well, plus it also requires somebody to report your post as well, right? So like it won't likely be automatically cleaned from their database. Probably somebody's got to say, hey, look at this.
Yeah, I would think so, although I don't understand why. It would be much easier just to put keywords in there than worry about reporting and like search every new post that's made. But oh well. That's what they did.
A keyword of Kyle Rittenhouse is going to show up all the criticisms as well. So you'd have to somehow filter out the things they want to keep to uphold their propaganda, whatever their viewpoint is.
Yeah, I guess that's true, because really when you're doing viewpoint censorship, which is really what they're doing, you can believe this and say so, but if you believe that, you have to hide that. You're not allowed to believe that openly. So yeah, that requires that you read the thing and you look for sarcasm and you try to figure out what's he really mean by this. So yeah, that would be more complex.
Which is way more effort than they're going to put into it. They're not going to try to figure all that out. They'll just read it and decide right out the gate whether or not it belongs. They're not going to get into any subtleties of what's being said there.
Well, I mean, they'll probably any ironies that are obvious, like, okay, he's saying this, but yeah, you're probably right.
So coming up, we're going to get into what a politician said. You've got a story about, and we're almost going to get to that, but a little bit more here from the Jim Breuer interview. This is with a local radio host here in the Keene, New Hampshire area. This is what was taken offline after the host posted it on the station website. It did air once on the actual broadcast airwaves, but somebody got offended by Jim Breuer. Here we go.
How do you handle it when you know this is going to happen? You know it, and you probably already have dealt with this. Somebody's going to stand up and be like, it's for our safety. Are you going to? How do you deal with a heckler like that?
I can tell you this: I've been doing it 30 years. I haven't had that problem in over 25.
There you go. Good.
So I read my audience very well. I read the crowd very well. And if I ever have an issue, I make sure we talk like humans. And pretty much 100% of the time, I come out on top.
Now, is this going to be? Are you excited for this environment because you're live, you're outside? Is like basically it's almost it is. You're doing stand up, so it's almost not that unique, but at the same time, it's unique. Have you done it in this kind of a setting before?
I've never done any.
This is cool.
What makes it more exciting. My job is to make people laugh.
Right.
I'm not going to be political. I'm just going to point out the obvious and the common sense, and hopefully most people will walk away going, that was so damn funny, and I like a couple things that he actually said made me think.
Right.
That's my agenda for that night.
That is fantastic.
Yes.
That shows a comedian that really knows his craft, right? The comedian states the obvious, but he states it in a way that is hilarious and points out these things that you knew were already true. And kudos to him for that.
And it's all by just a brief pause. It's just by saying things in a way that it will take you just a moment to figure out what was just said.
And like he was saying, if he can make it so that the people that see the show later on, think about, wow, I really agreed with that, or think further on a couple of the points that he made. This comes back to the old saying that if you want to tell somebody something important or outrageous or whatever, make sure they laugh at it, because otherwise they'll kill you, right?
Yeah, that was Oscar Wilde. Yeah. If you're going to tell them the truth, you must make them laugh, or they will kill you. And that is so true. And it goes back hundreds of years, back in the days of kings. The jester, the motley fool, was the one who could tell the king the truth without having his head cut off, which is why I've now formed the Motley Caucus of the Libertarian Party for myself and Vermin Supreme and whoever else wants to come along.
Did he join it?
He has joined the group.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to him in a while, and I want to.
You need to catch back up.
Yeah, when we're done with all these elections. He's running for Senate now, but we'll both be free in a while.
We should get him back on the show too.
I miss him. I love that dude.
He's hilarious. All right, let's continue a little bit more with Jim Breuer.
I've always wanted to ask a comedian, how fast do you have to be? If you see somebody in the crowd give you something, you've got to be lightning fast to respond to that, right?
Well, it all depends on the comic. Some comics are very scripted.
Right.
I'm not scripted.
That's great.
Different beast. I'm battle ready 24/7.
Nice.
I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen every audience. I've played in front of 3 people, played in front of 20,000.
Right.
I've seen everything. Although I haven't been in the woods driving yet, so I can't say I've seen everything. You got to be ready. Some people are not. I'm always ready.
I
don't encourage it, but I am ready. But I don't point anything out unless everyone else is aware of it.
Right. You're going to sell out this show, Jim. You know that. It's September 4th.
I hope so.
You're gonna, because first of all, people are itching. We need to laugh, Jim. We need it, man.
We need to get out. We need to laugh. I know.
We need to laugh, and we're going to laugh a lot with Jim Breuer on September 4th, and it's live. It's drive-in-live.com at the Cheshire Fairgrounds. Jim Breuer from SNL, but of course, Clerks. And Half Baked, which is still in my. I actually have DVD still. Sad, right? But I still have the Half Baked.
It'll be a rarity in another 5 years. People won't even know what that is.
Yeah, right. Thanks for being on the show, Jim Breuer.
There he is, Jim Breuer. The band interview. People are not allowed to hear that. It was taken down from a local radio station website. Sadly, the show is not a sellout, from what I heard earlier this week. So I'm sure a lot
probably
of people...
because the comedian isn't.
Oh, because he didn't sell it. Great point. Touche.
Thank you.
So there you go. That's Jim Breuer. That's our excuse. That's why we're not here doing the show live. We're not taking your calls live tonight. Although we can take calls if you're watching us as we're doing this on DLive and Twitch, because as we're recording this show, we are actually broadcasting us recording it. So technically, we are recording this live. But you just can't call in if it's Friday night.
Yeah. So if you want to catch the next time we do this in another 10 years, it wouldn't hurt to subscribe to either Twitch or DLive so you get a notification when we go online.
All you have to do is follow. If you subscribe, that means that you're paying the services, and you can
do then that. You should definitely do that. Do I get money?
Off the subscriptions? No.
I don't get any money from that. Okay, don't worry about it.
And we don't even get that much. Yeah, we don't even get that much. So like if you're going to contribute if you want to contribute to Free Talk Live, the best way to do it's the AMP program, because we keep the majority, the super majority, whereas if you do it through Twitch, if you contribute through Twitch takes half. So it's half right off the top goes to Twitch. So not the most efficient way.
Now you're reminding me of Eddie Murphy's routine about the Sasquatch wife. I want half, Eddie. I want half.
When was this? The 80s?
Yeah. Okay. He's talking about getting divorced, and I want half, Eddie. So,
yes. Thankfully, I've not been through that process.
Yes. Well,
I can't relate.
Yep. I'm pleased to say that I have not.
And I suspect it's not very funny when it's happening.
No,
for the people that it's happened to. All right. So speaking of not funny things, there's a politician who's just openly threatening to kill people. Apparently, nobody. You're going to tell us about that guy coming up here in just moments. And this is Free Talk Live. You can't call in tonight, but normally you can. This is
Except
Free Talk
you
Live.
can.
More coming up. Here we go. And if you are watching us on DLive and Twitch, yes, you can call into the show. And let's see, who do we have on DLive here? We got 8 people watching
Groovy.
on DLive. So welcome.
Not bad for a surprise show.
Yeah, you didn't know this was going to happen, but here we are, and we appreciate you being out there. We're doing a recording of our Friday night show here on Thursday night. And so if you call in, you're not supposed to talk dirty because we're going to put this on the radio. So just keep that in
But you
mind.
can call and talk dirty to me later.
Later. Do they have to pay you for that? Or do you pay them for that?
Girls or boys?
I don't know.
If it's boys,
How
they're
will
going to
you
have to
know?
pay me.
You can't see them.
Well, if I can't tell the difference, then
What's the
you know,
difference?
I'm going to believe what I believe.
There you go. This is hour 2, segment 2. Here we go. It's Free Talk Live, and normally you can join us here. But if you're listening on Friday night, sorry, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow. Or join us later on tonight for the Nobody Tells the Truth episode, which will be live from our Keene Studios, where we are right now, but we're not because we're actually at a comedy show, as we discussed for the first hour of the show here tonight. But we've got news to talk about, Nobody. In fact, last night you had this story ready, and we never got a chance to get it out there, as so frequently is the case here on Free Talk Live. What is in the news that you want to share with us?
Okay, well, I have a story, and it's really horrific to me on a couple of levels. It's this is a Republican. He's a he's a Republican congressman.
Okay,
and a representative, and he's supposedly a militia guy. Okay, he's spoken to militias. He's supposed to be a big Second Amendment guy, but they were having a anti-police brutality rally. And there is
who was
there was one in his area.
Okay,
and basically these are some comments that he made on Facebook, or this is an article about such comments, and this is from BuzzFeed. It's entitled, "A Republican member of Congress threatened to kill armed demonstrators in a Facebook post." Representative
Facebook tough guy.
Representative Clay Higgins has spoken at events organized by militia groups. When a rumor spread of a black militia group protesting police brutality, he said that their armed presence would be considered a threat and that he would drop any 10 of you where you stand.
So he supports militias unless they're black?
Apparently he doesn't understand the all men concept in terms of created equal or equal rights.
Maybe he thought they were still 3/5 of a person, that they never updated that.
That's true, but then he should have only required that they bring 3/5 of gun.
So this guy was just on his Facebook page. He wasn't in D.C. in like some hearing or something like that. He was just...
I mean, he may have been in D.C. posting it, but these are Facebook posts.
Gotcha.
Are what the story is about. It says Facebook removed 2 posts from a Republican member of Congress representing Louisiana on Tuesday, in which he threatened demonstrators against police violence.
Oh, so Facebook's protecting him.
Well, they removed the post because they violated their terms of service.
Right, but the interesting thing is that's sort of protecting him, because now you can't go and see it for yourself. Now you can hear about it,
right?
And maybe you can see a screenshot of it. But ultimately, Facebook sanitizing this from their website removes the evidence.
Right, it causes you not to know who this guy is.
Right.
And personally, what I want for my politicians is something on a blockchain, so that once he's said it, he can never take it back.
Can't delete.
Yes, can't delete, can't fall into an Orwellian memory hole.
What you're looking for is Twetch, Twetch. I don't know if you heard about it, but Derek J. called in, I think a couple times about this. It is a blockchain-based social Twitter-ish kind of tool where you can, what you say is permanently etched in the BSV, the Bitcoin SV blockchain.
Okay.
So this exists.
Well, groovy. I've got I've now got that in my search bar, so I'll be able to find it next break. But here's the text. Facebook removed 2 posts from a Republican member of Congress representing Louisiana on Tuesday, in which he threatened demonstrators against police violence, suggesting he would shoot and drop any 10 of you where you stand if they took to the street armed. If this shows up, we'll consider the armed presence a real threat. Rep. Clay Higgins, a former law enforcement officer, posted Tuesday on his personal verified Captain Clay Higgins Facebook page, along with pictures.
Look, Clay, it's
his name is Mud to me.
It's not supposed to work that way, where just because somebody has a gun in a holster or strapped to their back walking around, that is not a threat.
Yeah.
That's the freedom to carry. That's open carry. And now I don't know what Louisiana's laws are, and I'll look it up here in just a moment. But in a number of states,
it's an open carry state.
It is an open carry state.
Yes.
Okay, well then he is just completely wrong.
He's completely wrong.
Right.
And
legally wrong.
And it
wrong.
actually gets worse at the end of the story. If this shows up, we'll consider the armed presence a real threat, the opposite of what he says of
anyone
opposite
else.
of what anybody says about the militia, except weak leftists. Let's see. We don't care what color you are. Lie. We don't care if you're left or right. Lie. If you show up like this, if we recognize threat, you won't walk away. Higgins, a vocal advocate for gun rights, who was elected to Congress, and the very rights he's violating here, who was elected to Congress in 2016.
He wants gun rights for himself and maybe his buddies, but not all those other people.
I mean, the white people, yes, but not these guys. They're not included in all men for him, apparently. Who was elected to Congress in 2016 and who has been featured in NRA promotional videos, made no reference to protesters turning violent, but instead suggested their mere armed presence would be considered a threat. I wouldn't even spill my beer. We are SWAT. Nothing personal. We just eliminate the threat. That's not a challenge, fellas.
Wow.
It's a promise. He wrote Tuesday. Louisiana is an open carry state.
That's psycho right there.
It is.
Yeah.
Louisiana is an open carry state, meaning a permit is not required for someone to visibly carry a firearm in public. Higgins has also touted himself as
hold on before we go on. Now, this isn't legal advice, but carrying a gun, when they say that, they don't mean hefting it. They don't mean what they would call brandishing. They mean you have the gun in a holster, if it's a pistol, or you have it strapped to your back or something like that, where you're not hefting it in your arms at the ready. That's generally considered brandishing, and that is, I think, considered to be a crime. But that's not what they're talking about here. They're talking about just men with guns, just strapped and armed with them, not threatening, not pointing them at people.
Yeah, and generally brandishing, I mean, technically, I think you could walk down the road with like a pistol in your hand, pointing down at the ground. I think you technically could. I would not necessarily recommend trying it.
Yeah.
But in general, brandishing it is usually going to be a threatening motion. But the thing is, people very understandably don't want to give you a chance to bring a gun to bear on them. So if you've got it in their hand, they're going to be at least, or if you've got it in your hand, they're going to be on at least high readiness. And so the article goes on. Higgins has also touted himself as a strong advocate for the Second Amendment. One of his political ads started with him wearing a SWAT vest, shooting a rifle, and telling the viewer to tell the world we're American. But he goes on to say to this militia, you're the ones threatening. If you throw yourself aggressively natured and armed in my presence, he wrote in his now deleted post, we don't want to see your worthless ass, nor do we want to make your mothers cry. Higgins did not explicitly threaten to shoot the protesters. I beg to differ.
He basically did.
I think this language was an explicit threat to shoot, and I think this entire article actually was a crime because
Hold that thought. We're going to come back to it here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. Don't let me forget that. Okay. Make a note, or I'll make a note.
What am I noting?
You were going to explain why you think this is a crime, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I want to make sure we get back to that.
Good, because, that's the sort of thing I will completely forget.
Hey, thank you. Looks like we got Amu Star, who just followed the show here. Thank you on DLive. Welcome. We're kind of doing a bizarre hybrid here tonight of a live broadcast, but also recording our tomorrow night show. So it's an unusual show here tonight.
Truly peculiar, Mama.
All right, so we're halfway done at this point. All right, next one. Ready?
One more sec. All
Ready?
right.
This is Free Talk Live. We're here, and we're talking about this psycho representative, some U.S. representative from Louisiana, Clay, was it Higgins? What's his name?
Clay Higgins. I've never heard of him before.
Turns out he's willing to shoot somebody on sight if they happen to be black, it sounds like. And
yeah, if a black militia shows up,
if they're just
he's
armed,
gonna kill him,
if they're just armed and in the streets, and he says he considers that to be aggressive. Just being black, being armed in the streets, according to this guy, otherwise doing nothing except protesting, he considers that to be aggression, and he says he's going to shoot to kill. But yet he
which
says,
is, of course, the opposite of what I or any other militiaman would say about any other armed gathering of militia.
which is the other weird thing is this guy claims to be part of the militia movement, right?
But he's not part of the integrated militia movement. He's part of the segregated, it appears, militia movement.
And I want to talk about the integrated. I'm going to make a note here. We'll come back to that because that's something that you're working on, and you said you wanted to talk about it tonight, right?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk about it in relation to this because this forms almost an excellent explanation for why I'm doing what I'm doing.
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
But we gotta get to the thing you said before we went to the break there about why what he's talking about of shooting people in the streets for being armed is a crime. Hold that thought. I do want to tell you about Divvy. From mid-March to mid-July of this year, Divvy, which is a newer, easy-to-use cryptocurrency we've been promoting here on Free Talk Live, increased in value by over 10 times. Now, obviously, the creators of Divvy would like to see that continue to go up in value. We don't know what the future holds, but here at Free Talk Live, we're happy with our decision to hook up with Divvy a year ago. Actually, it's been a whole year. You can go to DivvyProject.org. You can begin earning Divvy by staking, or rather, starting a masternode, or you can stake Divvy, and they've even got a lottery for people who stake Divvy as well. Go to DivvyProject.org to learn more and get started. That's DivvyProject.org. So this lunatic congressperson is saying that he thinks it's totally fine to just shoot people dead in the streets because they're protesters, they're black, and they have guns.
Being part of a well-regulated militia while black apparently is a crime to him.
Now, Facebook went in and deleted this post, but not before somebody got a screen cap of it, I imagine, because it's being reported on here.
Yeah, and it was BuzzFeed, I think, that broke the story.
Now, what is it that you were going to say? You were going to say something right before we went to break about how this is a crime.
Well, basically, I believe that by making this post in which he says, "Do not come here to protest," or basically, "We will kill you,"
or we'll shoot you.
Well, Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for a person acting under color of any law to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or the laws of the United States.
Yeah, this would be multiple privileges: the right to bear arms and the right to assemble, for instance, the right to free
protest.
speech.
Yes, it's all right there, and it says here, and this is from justice.gov, so I'm getting this directly from the Justice Department. For the purpose of Section 242, acts under color of law include acts not only done by federal, state, and local officials within their lawful authority, but also acts done beyond the bound of that official's lawful authority.
Right.
So basically, even if part of his job description is not shooting any armed black people that he may see, and this is Alabama, so that might be in his job description still. They don't always update things
Louisiana.
fast there. Louisiana, yeah. I'm sorry,
Close.
Alabama.
Close.
This is Louisiana. But even if it's not in his job description to shoot armed black people, it's still, I believe, he's committed a criminal offense, and he's almost certainly got civil liability for this. And I hope that the militia of which he is talking will catch word of this broadcast and decide to get a lawyer and go after this cat, because this is a bad man.
Well, I mean, if they really want to throw down to some extent, they should go to his house.
Well, yeah, there's definitely that.
Let's call his bluff. See if he comes out blasting a bunch of peaceful protesters hanging outside of his house.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a risky move, but
well, I mean, the problem is,
bring your
unless
body
we're going to
armor.
go in blackface, it's like
Yeah.
risky for everybody but us.
Right.
And if we were to go in blackface with a 1,000-man black militia, that might also be very risky for us. So and I can't ask somebody to put themselves at risk and not go along.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask them to, but if they choose to do it, I'll respect the hell out of it. And if I can get down there, I will, just to, view it and see if he wants to shoot me too.
yeah, and the reason I say that, not because I want to put somebody in harm's way. I mean, I wouldn't advocate somebody do
Right.
something I wouldn't be willing to do myself. But just because somebody like this is a coward.
Yes.
This person is not who he pretends to be. He's a politician, so that's number one, how you know he's a snively little pathetic loser coward. But number two, the whole point of this tough talk, right? This I'm such a tough guy. Look at me, I'm a badass. I'm going to threaten you on Facebook. I've got guns. Look out. Yeah, we've heard it all before, dude. And the fact that you're a politician, it seals the deal. You would never do anything like this. You would never put your career as a politician, where you actually get to control people's lives, in jeopardy for whatever moment of sick perversion you would get out of shooting innocent, peaceful people in the streets.
And if in this day and age, I think you're right, because in this day and age, I don't think people would stand for it. But this is exactly the kind of guy who would whack 3 civil rights protesters, for example, as I believe that happened in Mississippi, where there was I think it was 1 black guy, 2 Jewish guys. They went down there for the Freedom Riders, but they just disappeared and were never heard from again. And it turned out it was law enforcement that killed them down there.
And this guy is former law enforcement.
This guy is former law enforcement.
Okay.
I can see
he may be more
doing it.
dangerous than your typical politician.
Yeah, because you have to. If you're going to be a Southern cop, you've got to have a couple of bodies under your belt that you're not talking about. But anyway, so this is the actual text of his post.
Yeah.
Captain Clay Higgins. Look, fair warning. If this shows up, we'll consider the armed presence a real threat. We being we, the people of Louisiana. One-way ticket,
He
fellas.
speaks for everyone in Louisiana.
Yeah. One-way ticket, fellas. Have your affairs in order. So he's telling them to prepare their
Prepare for
wills.
death.
Me, I wouldn't even spill my beer. I'd drop any 10 of you where you stand. Because some of we, like me,
Sure, bro.
we are SWAT. Nothing personal. We just eliminate the threat. We don't care what color you are. Lie. We don't care if you're left or right. Lie. If you show up like this, we will. If we recognize threat, you won't walk away. That's not a challenge, fellas. It's a promise. We don't want to see your worthless ass, nor do we want to make your mothers cry. You're the ones threatening. Lie. If you show yourselves aggressively natured and armed in my presence, in my neighborhood where I work.
Yeah.
Anywhere,
Being aggressively natured is a completely subjective viewpoint, and it has nothing to do with actually being threatened.
Yes.
To be threatened by someone with a gun is not to say that someone who you don't think looks nice has a gun. It's to say that someone has said something to you or has actually pointed the weapon at you to make you believe that that person intends to harm you with that weapon. They have to do something besides just show up at a protest.
Exactly. And clearly this guy is going to need to hire a consultant on this because it's required that a reasonable person would consider himself at risk.
Yeah.
And this man is clearly not reasonable. This man is actually the best argument I've ever heard of for a red flag law, except he's a politician, so it would never stick.
Nope.
Anyway.
And he's a former cop, so his buddies on the police force would protect him.
So just to finish up the last couple of words, in my presence, in my neighborhood where I work, anywhere close enough to put my family or my fellow citizens in danger, this is where your journey will end. Fast. How fast? 1,450 feet per second fast, which is, I believe, if I am remembering correctly, that's the muzzle velocity of an AR-14. So the speed at which a bullet leaves it. And I will go on to say Higgins posts featured, this is going back to the text of the article.
Hold that thought. We'll continue here in a moment on this. Clay Higgins, a representative, U.S. representative out of Louisiana, threatening, just openly threatening peaceful protesters who happen to be armed. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Oh, and this story is dated today. I should mention that.
Breaking news.
Or within the last couple days.
All right. If you're watching us on DLive or Twitch, welcome. And we are doing a recording here of our Friday night show. So we're doing it here on DLive and Twitch, which means you can participate. There are phone numbers on the screen. You can, or a phone number is on the screen. You can call that number. You can also jump into our Discord server over at discord.lrn.fm. And we will put you on the air here with us, and then your call will air on our live radio show. Or it won't be a live show tomorrow, but our radio show tomorrow, you'll be able to hear it played back then. So we're going through the show segment by segment. That was hour 2, segment 3. And now we will do segment 4. Are you ready, nobody?
We're ready. Do you want to recap or me?
Oh.
Either way, I don't care.
Hang on. Here we go. Free Talk Live. We are here in our Keene, New Hampshire studio on what is a Thursday night, even though you're hearing this on Friday. We're recording the show, which is unusual. If you just tuned in, we explained it for the first hour, what's going on. We're actually at a comedy show tonight that we didn't want to miss because, well, we're expecting it to be pretty epic. And so if you missed that segment of the show, you'll be able to grab this show's archives later tonight over at freetalklive.com. You can, of course, subscribe to our podcast as well, and then you'll get deliveries every single day. Whenever there's a new show available, you'll get it right in your podcast client. You can sign up for our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. And there are a few different podcast feeds there that you can subscribe to. There's the full one that's got all the content that we put out. There's the Daily Digest only, which only has the 20 or 30 minute daily digest that Riley Blake puts together on a daily basis. Thank you, Riley, for that. And there's also one with their episodes only. So there's a few different configurations that you can sign up for, and it's all free over at feeds.freetalklive.com. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
You want to recap?
Known as Other.
You want to recap this story that you've been telling us about?
Yeah, I've been talking about a certain dirtbag politician in. Can you remember the state? Was it Louisiana? Okay, which home to a lot of dirtbag politicians.
There's a lot of dirtbags. Yeah.
But this particular dirtbag,
especially the cops, they're super corrupt down there.
That's what I've heard. We've got a mutual friend who used to work at the public defender's office in Louisiana, and she has told us of eye-watering corruption down there, just things that boggle the mind. But so he's talking about there's about to be a protest apparently against police violence. And he believes that there is a black militia headed there, armed, to demonstrate, as is their right under the First and Second Amendments at this protest. And he has literally said that that he will pretty much kill them if they
show up.
If they show up. And just to recap a brief bit of that to give you the gist of it, if this shows up, we'll consider the armed presence a real threat. We, the people of Louisiana, one-way ticket guys, have your affairs in order. Me, I wouldn't spill my beer. I'd drop any 10 of you where you stand. So this is very clearly a threat, and I believe it is an attempt to deprive them of their civil rights.
It's a crime.
I believe it's a crime, yes. And so just to finish up the article, Higgins Post had featured a picture.
Look, before you go on, if I tell somebody, if you show up at this place and I don't like you and I shoot you, or that I'm going to shoot you if you show up at a certain place, the idea is to dissuade you from showing up at that place through the threat of potential violence against you. That's straight up a threat.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's a threat that violates your constitutional rights.
Especially if it comes from an elected official.
Yes. Yes, this is absolutely unconscionable. And from a militia guy. And this angers me because I have dealt for years with people saying, oh, well, gun rights are just white rights. And I say, no, the Second Amendment is for everybody because having a gun, arming yourself under the Second Amendment, that means that you don't have to ask the other guy if you've got civil rights. Because if you're armed, you know you've got them. And as Malcolm X said, if you're a man, you take them.
You exercise. You have to exercise your rights. And that goes back to what we were talking about before with Jim Brewer's comments about how if you're not speaking out now, you better soon because you got to.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be pushback on this. This is an absurdity. This man needs prosecuted.
He didn't get arrested,
if
right?
not shot. No. He got his Facebook post taken down.
Right.
So he may have cried, but not for long. Not long enough, nearly. So Higgins' post had featured a picture of masked protesters raising a fist in the air and who did not appear to be visibly armed, as well as a second picture of a black militia group called the and I can't say this on the radio, so I'm going to say Not Fooling Around Coalition.
Okay.
But if you Google it under that name, you won't find it. If you don't know what name to Google it under, you're too young. A militia group called the Not Fooling Around Coalition, or NFAC. Its members have appeared heavily armed in bulletproof vests at protests against police brutality, including the killing of Taylor in Louisville. This group has challenged white supremacist groups, including the KKK, to confrontations and has called for the removal of Confederate monuments. The lawmakers' post was made after a rumor began circling on social media that members of the NFAC would be appearing in Lafayette, Louisiana. The group did not ultimately appear. However, both KATC and The Advocate reported that at Tuesday night's Black Lives Matter protest in Lafayette City Hall, it was actually a right-wing militia who showed up heavily armed. Now, this man has just said that if a black militia, a left-wing militia, shows up armed, he's going to regard that as a threat and shoot them on sight. But both KATC and The Advocate reported that at Tuesday night's Black Lives Matter protest at Lafayette City Hall, it was actually a right-wing militia who showed up heavily armed. The Advocate reported that 40 to 50 members of the Louisiana Cajun militia attended the demonstration. This group posted pictures of its members in bulletproof vests and camouflage gear and armed with long guns outside the government building. Higgins has made no mention of the fact of that armed group in his social media accounts, and his office did not respond to multiple requests for comment about his posts or the militia's presence at Tuesday's protest.
He's probably hoping this goes away.
Yeah. But the lawmakers show no qualms in the past about peering alongside and speaking at events organized by other mostly white militia groups, and clearly, or at least I suspect, that he did not see that they were armed and immediately shoot them. Because, he wouldn't be welcome at the next gathering if he did that.
The NFAC is an interesting group here. I wasn't able to find a website in a brief search, but I did find a Newsweek article about them. They apparently were able to muster 1,000.
Oh, yeah, I saw that article. It's down at the mountain.
It's Georgia's Stone Mountain Park, like a month ago, I guess.
And that park, as I understand it, is like the founding place of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, really?
So, and they were calling out the racist militias. I don't want to say the white militias. Let me say the racist militias. And the thing is, for those who don't know, the militia is defined as every able-bodied man from 17 to 70. Okay, so everybody's part of the militia. But you choose your unit, who you muster with, and different units have different philosophies. There are racist militia units, and the mainstream media wants you to believe that that's all there are. But I personally believe that the majority of militia units are not racist or racially based. They're not scared of people of other colors. They're scared of the federal government, and it's always a good thing to be scared to. But, okay. So on July 29th, 2017, Higgins appeared at a D.C. event organized by Oath Keepers, a group that claims to have tens of thousands of members and has been described by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a radical anti-government group. Now, I know a lot...
Oath Keepers?
Yeah, I know a lot of Oath Keepers. I believe that the Southern Poverty Law Center is not being fair to them
they're
here.
full of it.
They're frequently full of it, but they're also frequently right.
Sometimes,
so that's the thing, is you have to know the group they're talking about and be like, okay, is this really the truth? Because if it's the truth, they've probably got the details right. Or are they just, bloviating because this is a right-wing group? But... although leaders of the group contend it is not a militia, the group has acted and launched operations similar to a paramilitary force. Members of other militia groups were invited and attended the event. The Advocate also reported that the Louisiana Republican has sold shirts at his political events with logos identical to that of the Three Percenters, another set of anti-government militia groups scattered across the country. And these Three Percenters,
I've heard of these guys.
Well, basically what they're referring to is it is said that during the American Revolution, 3% of the population wanted to secede. 3% of the population wanted to stay, and 94% of the population wanted to avoid being shot.
Okay.
So which is reasonable of them. So that's
which 3%
what
are the 3 percenters?
The 3 percenters are their 3%. I believe they would claim is the secessionist part of the of the 3%, which is same part I would be. None of the 3 percenters that I know have been racist, but I've heard tell of racist 3 percenter militias. So I look at them carefully before I deal with them.
You can hear a lot of things, but the question is, what do you see in real life? I mean, do these people actually show up and do anything, or are they just training with each other out in the woods and they supposedly exist?
I mean, the only time I've run into them, like there were 3 percenters at some of the mask rallies we've been to. Some of those guys with the AR-15s were 3 percenters.
More coming up.
You want to recap this time?
Sure.
You're way better at it than I am. Practice.
All right. 2/3 of the way. One more hour. Okay, here we go. Free Talk Live, kicking off the third hour here of this special episode of Free Talk Live, hosted by Ian.
And nobody.
We've been talking about a psychopath who is in public office down in Louisiana. Clay, I think his name, Higgins.
Yes, Clay Higgins, but his name is mud to me.
He is a U.S. representative who fancies himself a militia member, a former law enforcement officer, who apparently doesn't think black people should be allowed to have militias, because he says he basically said, I'm paraphrasing from a Facebook post he made, which was subsequently deleted from Facebook by apparently Facebook, that if black people show up, or I guess anyone he doesn't like, shows up and has a gun at a protest, not that they're waving the gun at him, not that they're pointing the gun at him, but just that if he doesn't like how they are, if he feels like they're, quote, what was it, aggressively postured or something like that?
It was aggressively natured.
That's what it was.
So and the difficult thing about that is really if you have an aggressive nature, it means that's just who you are.
Like him, a politician.
Your nature is who you are. Your posture would be, how you're standing right now.
Right.
So it's almost like he's saying that, I don't know what the heck he's saying, and maybe
he's
that's
saying if
intentional.
He's saying he thinks he has the
that,
freedom to blast people and kill them because he doesn't like the way he considers their nature to be.
Right. You don't get a First Amendment if he doesn't approve of you, and you don't get a Second Amendment if he doesn't approve of you.
Yeah, I don't know where we were going at the very end of that last segment there, and so I don't know if you were driving at a point or sharing out something from this story.
I can't actually recall either. So,
was there more? Was there more that you thought worth sharing, or do we pretty much cover
There's
it?
a little bit more to the story, and we did. Basically, although leaders of okay, I'm going to go back one paragraph. I see where we are now. Higgins appeared at a D.C. event organized by Oath Keepers, a group that claims to have tens of thousands of members and has been described by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a radical anti-government group. Unfair, I think, but going on. Although leaders of this group contended it's not a militia, the group has acted and launched operations similar to a paramilitary force. Members of other militia groups were invited and attended the event. The Advocate has also reported the Louisiana Republican has sold shirts at his political events with logos identical to that of the Three Percenters, another group of anti-government militia groups scattered across the country. After his original post was taken down Tuesday night, Higgins followed up on Facebook by saying he had not deleted the post himself, suggested he was being censored, and continued to encourage people to respond to protesters. America is being manipulated into a new era of government control. Your liberty is threatened from within. Welcome to the front lines, ladies and gentlemen. I'll advise when it's time to gear up, mount up, and roll out. Now, I actually think he's correct in what he's saying there, which is that basically the powers that be, call it the deep state, call it whatever you wanna call it. I believe that they're bringing in a new wave of tyranny, and that basically, as a result of this, there's an organized attempt in the government and the media to stir up racial strife.
And this guy's part of it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, this guy's part of it. So he's one side of the dupes, because I think they're duping the left wing and the right wing.
Right. He's acting,
but he's aware to some level.
He's acting here like he's on the side of freedom, which, of course, we already know he's a psychopath, and we know he's a former cop. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some good guys who join the police. I think those people exist. Many of them quit.
But they don't threaten militias who exercise their Second Amendment rights.
Right, which is why I say, if this guy says, he says, wait till I say the word. What was it, the last line he used?
He said...
It was like, wait till I give the word, and then you'll roll out. And
there it is. America is being manipulated into a new era of government control. Your liberty is threatened from within. Welcome to the front lines, ladies and gentlemen. I'll advise when it's time to gear up, mount up, and roll out.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be taking his advice.
I will not be rolling out with him, but if in the event that he decides to roll out to New Hampshire, then I hope he doesn't bring an aggressive nature with him.
Hey, there was something you mentioned in the last hour that was related to this, about an integrated movement as opposed to a segregated movement, I think. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, these are not classifications or classical classifications of militia. Classically, there are two kinds of militia. There is the select militia, which is arguably their place is filled by the National Guard, and they're generally around all the time. They're managed by the government, and they're kind of the first line of defense. But then in the case of actual war, they also call up the unorganized militia, and the unorganized militia is the entire body of the people. So from 17 to 70. And traditionally that was men. I would say now it would include both men and women to the extent that they want to serve. But what I was talking about is this guy is obviously looking for some kind of a segregated militia. He doesn't want a black militia out there. And it strikes me as particularly poignant because I have been working on trying to talk to people from Black Lives Matter, And eventually I will spread this out to other black groups, Black Panthers, for example, what have you, and any other person who's interested in being involved. And also I've been reaching out to the militia and the boogie boys that I know and the gun people, and what I'd like to see grow out of that, although I don't know how to get there because I'm no military commander. My only military experience is JROTC. But what I want to do is try to put these people together, get a meeting of the minds, and say and try to get basically an organization of militias that are either mixed race or, as a special exception, all black. Normally, I would say that I would want only mixed race militias. That would be my personal inclination. But the thing is, I would not want to turn away somebody like the Black Panthers, which I believe was all black, or something like the Not Fooling Around Coalition, which is all black. And I can understand why they would not necessarily have the trust level for white people right now to want to be in an integrated militia. So basically, on the other hand, if an all-white militia wanted to be involved in this, I would probably resist that. And again, treating people differently by races is abhorrent to my nature.
Yeah.
But the circumstances that we're in are also abhorrent to my nature. So that's kind of how I'd look at it. And the two things that I'd want to be able to do. The first is I would want to be able to provide militia support if we had people in the area to Black Lives Matter events, so that basically they've got armed people out there ready to protect them.
Because most of the people at these events, we've been to a few of them here in New Hampshire, they're like skinny little liberal kids. You know, that's what
that's the Antifa. Okay, you will probably find a different crew with Black Lives Matter, and you'll certainly find a different crew with the Panthers. But
I'm talking about at the events that we've been to here in New Hampshire. That's what I've seen. There's a bunch of
there have been a lot of skinny white kids, and which is nice that they're doing an event about black people being shot. But white people are showing up and saying, this is unacceptable. We can't have this. So kudos to them for doing this. But I would like to be out there with militia, and also because there have been problems when militiamen have showed up at Black Lives Matter events looking to protect property or provide medical aid or whatever, but they haven't been coordinating with the Black Lives Matter people.
Right.
So the Black Lives Matter people don't know who they are. They don't know why they're there.
Well,
they don't know what their intent is.
If a group of black guys with guns, a black militia shows up at one of these Black Lives Matter events, it's going to make some heads explode. I mean, people are not
hopefully not literally.
Right. But figuratively, they're going to be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Black guys with guns? And they might actually stop for a second and ask a question. They might actually let their guard down and listen to what these guys have to say. We got more coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. And gals, there's some ladies in the pictures from the NFAC.
Woo! Yeah, I may actually call the Attorney General of this freaking state. What are you doing about this? Just tell him I'm a journalist from New Hampshire. I'm a historian. I want to follow up.
All right, let's talk Forkfest.
What's the most generically named publication we can publish under? Free Keen, or is
generic?
There anything more like do they still have the FPP News or whatever?
Oh, it's sterile.
Okay.
A sterile site. I suspect he still has it. I don't think he's doing anything with it. Okay. Maybe Free Talk Live. You're always welcome to represent Free Talk Live.
Okay.
I mean,
I can
we're the number
that.
25
that
talk
shows
show.
My hand that just shows he knows my politics if I say Free Talk Live, because he will probably web search me.
Yeah, but you can also say nationally syndicated talk show Free Talk Live. Preface it with preface it with our position.
Sure.
The number 25 on the talk show, the Talkers Magazine Heavy 100. You can throw that out there. All right, this is segment 2, hour 3. Here we go.
Okay.
Oops. It's Free Talk Live, and you can visit us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. You can visit us in real life coming up ForkFest 2021. That's right, we're already planning for it, and you should be planning for it as well if you want to have a good time with other liberty-minded folks in the woods, in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire at Rogers Campground. Same place it happened this year is happening again in June 28th through July 4th of 2021. What better way to celebrate Independence Day than with people who care about freedom, the people like us who've migrated here to New Hampshire, and you can migrate here too, but you might want to check it out first. And this is a perfect excuse. ForkFest, great excuse to come up to New Hampshire, bring the family, bring your friends, have a good time, and enjoy ForkFest. The thing with ForkFest is it's decentralized. So there's no central authority. There's no board of directors. There's no organizer, except for each individual. You get to decide what, if anything, you want to put together. So one guy had a party tent, basically. It was like a poker party tent that happened the whole time during ForkFest this year. And he put that together on his own. He sourced the tent, he bought the tent or whatever, he put the thing up, and everybody had a good time under that tent. There was also some other booths that folks put up. You want to sell things, you want to sell food. There were multiple food vendors that we had this year. So whatever it is that you feel called to do, if anything, Aria and Captain Kickass and Michael Gordon put on a music show. And so it was great. It was a really cool event, and you get to decide what to do. You just want to come hang out, that's cool. If you want to create a thing for other people, you put on a musical performance or some sort of art exhibit or whatever you want to do, put a play on. I don't know, whatever it is that you're called to do, whatever you think people want to, whatever you think the other attendees would enjoy.
Strippers.
You could do that. Over at forkfest.party is where you can go to learn more about the event. It is an unofficial website. It's got some links to some useful resources like our Telegram chat room, which continues to have activity in it, by the way. So check it out. Forkfest.party. And again, mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. Hopefully there'll be more going on in 2021, but it may be once again that ForkFest is the only camping festival that's worth talking about.
Yeah, and we may fill up the park if that happens, because, although actually one other thing happened this year, the Michigan Peace and Michigan Peace and Liberty.
That's the Midwest Fest or something,
yeah,
I think?
Yeah, Midwest. That's right.
It is, yeah.
So it's convention or whatever. But
that's a camping thing, isn't it? Isn't that a camping thing?
It's a what thing?
Isn't that a camping event?
It is a camping event.
Yeah.
It's a camping event in Michigan. I actually went there the year I wasn't in New Hampshire.
Those people should move to New Hampshire.
I agree. And actually, many of those people planned to move to New Hampshire. And then when there was a little political shakeup at the Free State Project, and that spooked them. And so
I'll never understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either, but I do understand wanting to be really sure of what you're doing before you move to a strange state.
True, it is a big commitment.
And so anyway, one of the things that I've got to do is get back in touch with those guys and say, look, this whole political mess that we had, I know it was nasty, it's over, we fixed it, so let's reconsider moving to New Hampshire.
Yeah. Well, regardless of what one group of board members of an organization that ultimately has no control over anyone at all that are here in New Hampshire. The Free State Project is just this concept that encourages people to migrate if they love liberty to move to New Hampshire. So if a board of directors does something you don't agree with, then you can just disassociate with that organization and do your own thing. That's what we've been doing.
And if you want to be involved with an organization, there is a fledgling organization called the Live Free or Die Project, which is phrased something slightly different. It's a project where...
Is this your project?
Yes, it's my project. And the idea is that we are New Hampshire natives, or New Hampshire residents, I'm sorry. And we are aiming to keep our security intact, and we're asking people to come and help us. So it's not, this is not about a takeover of the state. It's just about come and help us keep New Hampshire free and enjoy that freedom yourself, because the rest of the country is going to go to hell is what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, it's not looking good. That's for sure. You know, we were talking about this integrated militia movement idea that you had, where you're trying to bring together people who might more traditionally be considered on the left or on the right, but both who should be interested in defending their rights and gun rights, and you want to bring the people who already kind of get guns and get the idea of gun rights and exercising those rights together if they weren't already connected together. So like the Boogaloo Boys,
Right.
or who considered generally more right-wing, but they may be more anarchist. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And then the black militias, for instance. This is what you were calling integrated militia movement?
The black militias that I know are not actually integrated, although there are mixed race militias. The two majority black militias that I can name are the NFAC, which is the it's not the Not Fooling Around corporate coalition, but I'm going to say it is because I'm on the radio.
Right.
And also the Black Panthers, of course, were a militia, although I don't know if they ever used that term to describe themselves. That's certainly exactly what they were. They were a group of black men, 17 to 70, who took up arms to, for example, guard Watts during some of the riots and unpleasantness of 1960. And interestingly enough, something very few people know, they actually outlawed open carry in the state of California, specifically to stop the Black Panthers from carrying. And a very famous governor of California
Ronald
signed
Reagan.
that law. Yes. I was going to ask you to guess, but yes, the law to outlaw open carry in California was signed by Ronald Reagan.
And
Mr.
is it still outlawed?
Gun
Is it
rights.
still illegal there?
In California?
Yeah, must be. It must be.
I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
because
it's gotta be. It's California.
run by lunatics and control freaks.
You can't even have a gun concealed in California. So
I don't think so. It's awful state for gun rights. So I imagine it is. But yeah, that's another example. It's like this Clay Higgins character that, Ronald Reagan's all for gun rights, right? But
for his gun
not
rights.
when the Black Panthers are doing it. Okay, that's not how any of this works.
Right.
That
Rights
is
are for
not-
humans. Rights are for
Exactly.
humans.
Exactly. If you're a human, you have the rights of a man.
That's right.
Or a woman, or
all of the above.
Maybe a child if you're a very young human.
They have rights too.
Exactly. So basically, and this goes on to say that Rob Anderson, a Democrat running against Higgins in 2020, said in a statement that his campaign informed local, state, federal law enforcement about Higgins' posts, and also contacted Republican Democratic leadership in Congress. And he says no elected official in this nation in any office should be responsible for drumming up violence where there is no violence. And I thought that was really interesting, because I see a lot of posts where I look at the Democrats and I say these are the bad guys, these are the anti-liberty guys, and I look at the Republicans, especially on gun posts, and I say, well, these are the liberty guys. And here it's the opposite, because the Republican is trying to take away somebody's liberty, and this Democrat is saying, well, you can't do that. So basically, that's kind of the plan for what I'm trying to put together. I want to be able to coordinate activities of mixed race and all black militias.
I want you to give out a way for people who might be interested in helping here in a moment. More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. Starting this over. By the way, Twitch and DLive folks, we are here and we are live. And if you want to call in, you can. Just got to keep it radio friendly because we're recording our show for tomorrow night. All right, here we go. This is Free Talk Live. Ian and Nobody here in our studio, and we appreciate you being out there. If you are listening tonight and you're listening live, stay tuned because after 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have Nobody Tells the Truth. It'll probably be at 10:30-ish. We got to get back from the comedy show that we're at right now as you're listening to this. We're recording this show on Thursday night so we can actually get away from the studio for one night and go and see what we're expecting to be a pretty epic show. I got to say, though, my expectations have been risen, so I could be disappointed. Normally, I don't like to get my expectations up, but this, I got to say, Jim Breuer has done a good job of pitching his show tonight. And he will be playing in other places, by the way, so you'll be able to check out his comedy show, which is called The New Normal, comedian Jim Breuer.
Groovy. So if somebody pitches their show well, you have to catch it.
In this case, I feel like I'm obligated just for the sake of going and doing something and showing support for somebody who's willing to get up on stage and do a show.
Yeah.
Something simple like that. So that's what we're doing tonight. But we're also discussing the news. We're discussing the issues. And you were talking about this integrated movement of sort of a militia movement that you want to bring people together and from what would normally be seen as these disparate groups that actually have things in common but may not realize it.
Yeah, and there are things that these groups have in common. There's things that they don't have in common. I know that the Black Panthers are at least to some extent socialist, whereas most of the Boogie Boy groups I know, or all of them, frankly, are made up of people who are more ANCAP in the area of economics,
anarcho-capitalists.
Anarcho-capitalists. So they're more free market things. But the thing is, we don't have to agree on everything. The thing we have to agree on is that every man has a right to keep and bear arms, and that every man has a right not to be gratuitously killed by the police. And you know, that's the point.
I think most sane people could agree with that.
I think so too. So and basically I just want to have some kind of a mutual support network, a way that we can call on each other if we need to, a way that if there are Black Lives Matter things going on, we can actually coordinate with Black Lives Matter and go out there so they know who we are, why we're there, that we are not ill-disposed toward them, because it may be that in this Kenosha Kyle case, I'm going to call it because I don't know his last name, but in this Kenosha Kyle case, it's quite possible, because of the way the left has been indoctrinated to look at a white man with a gun, they may have thought, oh my God, this is a school shooter, we have to disarm him right now. Now, if they did, they were in the wrong, but that could have been avoided if people had known he was coming and said, hey, there are going to be some militia guys here with guns and they're on our side.
Now, I think what you're doing here is really interesting and potentially very important work, which is to say, to break down whatever preconceived notions and barriers that these people have built up in their minds about the other, right? So, and just as an example, the article from Newsweek that mentions or that talks about the Not Effing Around Coalition, NFAC. This was written back in July of this year about a group of the NFAC of 1,000 strong, which is a tremendous amount of people to be able to get out.
As a matter of fact, do we have time to cover that article?
Yeah, I mean, I've got it here. I've got it right here. So, yeah, sure. 1,000 heavily armed militia, all of whom were black. This is, again, Newsweek.com. Marched through Georgia's Stone Mountain Park Saturday, challenging white nationalist groups in the area to either come out and fight or join them in demonstrating against the government. Okay, so that does sound like they're at the very least open.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the first thing that attracted me to them.
Oh, interesting.
So basically, I saw that article yesterday, and you just found it independently.
Yes.
But I found that article yesterday and actually posted it in this group that I just created yesterday. It's got like 26 people in it so far, and I basically said I want to meet these people. So then today, when I found this article, I was like, oh, well, he wants to shoot these people that I want to meet. And if he shoots them, I can't meet them. So I don't want that to happen.
So Stone Mountain State Park officials said the black militia group was peaceful, orderly, and escorted by police as they called for the removal of the country's largest Confederate monument near Atlanta. Videos posted to social media show the group, the Not Effing Around Coalition, NFAC, meeting at the massive 9-story quartz sculpting that depicts former Confederate President Jefferson Davis and Southern Generals Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. NFAC founder Grandmaster Jay told Newsweek via phone on Sunday the militia members at Stone Mountain on Saturday were, quote, 100% black, and they are not affiliated with Black Lives Matter. Quote, we are a black militia. We aren't protesters. We aren't demonstrators. We don't come to sing. We don't come to chant. That's not what we do, he said. And I can't stand chanting. God, it's so.
Yeah, it's like the only people I ever chanted for was Black Lives Matter. Like if I'm at one of our things, I won't chant. But when we went to the thing in Manchester and they were chanting,
they were chanting in Manchester.
Well, they were just Black Lives Matter. And then the other thing is they were doing something that was screw Trump, screw Trump, screw Trump. So at the end of that, I was like, yeah, and screw Biden too, and got a good laugh and a smile out of people.
The NFAC head explained why several videos showed the militia members alongside demonstrators earlier in the day before heading to Stone Mountain. Grandmaster Jay told Newsweek the sister of Rayshard Brooks, who was killed outside the Atlanta Wendy's by police last month, requested the NFAC militia provide her with a security escort to a downtown rally that began at the site of her brother's death. Quote, our initial goal was to have a formation of our militia in Stone Mountain to send a message that as long as you're abolishing all these statues around the country, what about this one? Grandmaster Jay said, referencing the massive Confederate carving. He added he must commend Stone Mountain Police for offering the black militia, the all-black militia support as they exercised their constitutional rights on July 4th. Quote, it was all black. There were no brown people, no white people. Everyone was black. I'm not a protester. I'm the commanding general of my militia. We were swearing in new members, he added, highlighting that there was a second militia show of force Saturday near Phoenix. The coalition of black militia met at the monument, which is historically tied to the birth of the Ku Klux Klan and has more recently been the site of white nationalist rallies. Leaders of the militia frequently halted the protest to challenge local white supremacists and far-right Second Amendment advocates to, quote, stop hiding. And this is the line that I just wanted to excerpt here. He says, quote, I don't see no white militia, the boogie boys, the 3%ers, and all the rest of these scared-ass rednecks. We're here. Where the F you at? We're in your house, one protester said into a PA system during the Stone Mountain Park March. So I think that's where, they're grouping people together.
Right.
They may not really understand or know what the Boogaloo Boys are all about. Your understanding of the Boogaloo Boys is they're anarchist types, at least the ones you've met.
Well, the thing is, Boogaloo Boys are all kinds. Okay, they have a few cultural similarities, mostly in interest in guns. They probably come from different places in the political spectrum. What they've got in common is they believe that the United States government is going to collapse. They don't intend to cause that collapse. They believe it's going to happen. And they believe that they are then going to be left to fend for themselves. And they train and they meet in order to prepare for that day, and they're kind of whimsical in the way they act. They'll be like AR-15, but they'll wear Hawaiian shirts. Like if you see a guy with an AR-15 and a Hawaiian shirt, probably a boogie boy. I'm sure there are some racist ones. I don't know any in New Hampshire because all the ones I know are part of the Free State Project, and we've done everything we can to keep racist out of that because, who needs them? We had one, we had Cantwell, we threw him the hell out. So basically, I think it's very important, and especially in the face of this, it's the current year. And are you telling me that black people still don't have the right to keep and bear arms in parts of America? That is an absolute absurdity. And,
Well, kudos to these guys for going out and with 1,000 people going
that's
out.
That's huge for a militia.
I mean, I can't
I would
imagine.
expect like the maximum size I would expect for a militia unit would be like 250 people. Well, 250, that wouldn't completely shock me. That would be like one battalion.
Hold that
I think.
thought. We got more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Oh, okay. A battalion is 300 to 1,000 soldiers. So they showed up with a battalion, but it was a maximally sized battalion. So that's,
All right. That leaves us with one segment to go. All right, if anybody wants to call in, now's your chance. This is our last segment for the Friday night show. Thanks for watching us on DLive and on Twitch. So we're here. If you want to join us, Ian and Nobody, we're about to finish this up.
All right.
Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, sir?
Okay, so we were...
We haven't started yet.
Okay.
Hang on.
Then I won't talk.
Yep. I thought you were saying because you wanted to get something in before I started. All right. So
okay. No.
It's Free Talk Live, wrapping up a special Friday night episode of the show with Ian and Nobody here in our Keene studio. Don't forget, you can always go to freetalklive.com and you can support what we do in a variety of ways. Of course, there's the AMP program, which we told you about earlier. There's also a satellite fundraiser that I'm trying to bring a little bit of attention to because, well, it's time for us to consider whether to continue the satellite feeds or not. There's a year, not every year, but every 3-year renewal term that comes up because it's a 3-year contract.
And these are the satellites over Africa?
One's over Africa, one's over the United States, and actually North and Central America. And, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money in the scheme of things to run these things, but it's only about $1,000 a month. I'm not at liberty to say the exact amount, but it's no more than that. And so we've been doing it for like a decade. I think I started the U.S. feed in 2010 and then Africa in 2012. So it's been going on for a long time. And it just has never really gotten any significant level of support. So right now,
or at least no significant feedback. You don't really know how many people are listening to it.
Yeah, you don't know.
It.
And you don't know how many people listen to a radio station either.
Sure.
But every now and then
you've got Nielsen ratings.
We don't get that.
Oh, you don't?
No. You got to pay for those, and you got to pay a lot.
Yeah, I used to work for those guys. I didn't like them.
Yeah, it's not worth it. But anyway, my point here is I got to make a decision. Should we continue these satellite channels? I want to keep them going, but I also don't want to do a thing that really isn't valued by other people, Like, it's a personal mission for me, and I've done that for many years now, and it would be nice if I felt like other people actually thought it was a good idea. Now, there are about 20 people who are donating various different levels to the existing fundraiser on Patreon that's been going on since 2017. So thank you to all the folks who have been contributing to that. Unfortunately, it only makes up about 15% of the total monthly satellite bill that we have. So not a whole lot. So what I thought to do was, we got time before the contract renewal comes up in 2021. So we got plenty of time. My thought was, let's do a matching contribution where the Shire Free Church, my church, will donate matching amounts to whatever it is that comes into the fundraiser. So if we can get to $500 a month, then the church matches the 500 and we're up to 1,000. Boom, we keep both channels on the air. I don't think that's an unreasonable goal to hit $500 a month in fundraising for this plan. If other people think this is a good idea, if you think it's a good idea to broadcast LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, Free Talk Live, and all the great shows on LRN to sub-Saharan Africa, which is the least internet connected part of the planet, with the exception of North Korea. It's sub-Saharan Africa. It's like 20 to 25% of the people there have internet connection. So this is still a place where broadcasting on satellite it makes a difference. They have the satellite receivers there. You can go and learn more about it at Fund, F-U-N-D, Fund, fund.lrn.fm. You can contribute for $2 a month to the Patreon, or whatever amount you feel like that project is worth. And maybe people don't think it's worth much of anything, and maybe it's it's something that's time has come. I personally want to keep the African feed going just because of the outreach aspect of it.
I think I would kick in some money to keep Africa going, just because I've gotten Facebook contacts from people who have listened to the Africa feed, so I know that it's creating contacts. Now these aren't people that I can meet with directly, but I like knowing they're there.
Yeah, and they are there. And they are.
And at least a couple of them have formed libertarian organizations in Africa.
Now, I don't know if that's because of us, but they have done that.
I don't know if it's because of us or if we're supporting pre-existing organizations, but either way. I mean, again, black folks in self-defense. If there's any place in the world that black folks need to be able to defend themselves, it's in Africa, where they are at a lot of risk from the Chinese and probably others. I don't know.
And other Africans. Like the people in government, specifically, who are oppressing them.
Exactly. The governments there have, as far as I know, generally been horrible. So
they're everywhere. I mean, all around the world, they're horrible. But the other thing is, if we can raise enough on this fundraiser, I can add more channels. Like, instead of taking channels away and shutting things down, if we can hit $1,000 a month, then that'll actually, if we're doubling it, then that's $2,000 a month. That gives us enough to order another channel over, I think the Middle East or North Africa. There's another satellite that can get us on there, and in Europe as well. So there's a lot of opportunity that we can get these messages out to. But the whole point of the fundraiser is to have some skin in the game, have some other people back these ideas and say, hey, this is a good plan. I'm willing to put $5 a month. Or I think I created a couple new levels recently. One was $4.20, and the other one $13.37. So, but you can put whatever.
Why $13.37?
It's Leet speak. Remember from the 1990s?
Oh yeah,
the computer days.
Okay, if I wrote that down, I'd know what it spelled, but I don't remember anymore.
Leet.
I don't speak. Oh, so it is just Leet.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was a whole thing that you would do with different symbols and spell out words.
It was. So check that out. FUND. Fund.lrn.fm. So we'll try to get the word. I mean, honestly, I haven't promoted it very heavily, and it just was something that was weighing on my mind recently. I'm like, we got to do something different here. We got to get some attention to this thing, and maybe people will support it. So there you go. And we were talking about the NFAC, the Not Effing Around Coalition, and the idea of integrating militia movement, bringing people together from the Boogaloo Boys to the NFAC, the Black Panthers, and maybe other groups. And you're working on this, Nobody. What is it that somebody who's been listening this hour and hearing this discussion, and they're saying to themselves, well, I'm a Boogaloo Boy, or I'm a Black Panther, and I'm interested in joining. What should that person do?
Well, I'm going to start out with a special note on this for white people, which is one of the first things that basically I met a black nationalist in Manchester, and he didn't like white people much. And he didn't necessarily agree with me on everything, but as I got to know him and respect him, and we opened up to each other, he really moved my position on a lot of racial issues, because I was still at the point where I was saying, well, why do you say Black Lives Matter instead of saying all lives matter? And because and he basically said, well, there's never been any question whether your lives matter, but mine remains an issue. And that's exactly what we see with this article about Louisiana, that I would probably be safe enough were I not a felon to be carrying guns around down there. But if he does it, and he is a gun guy, then there's at least one elected official that wants to shoot him
just because he's black.
So just because he's black, and so that's why I said, well, okay, I understand that now, and I'm going to say Black Lives Matter, and I'm going to say it proudly, and I'm going to and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to be able to explain why I'm saying it, because I don't want to say that only Black Lives Matter, because that's nonsense. I don't even want to say that Black Lives matter more than white lives.
They don't.
I just want to say that Black Lives matter, and that until Black lives are treated like they matter, then you can't say all lives matter, because you're leaving some people out.
Well, the fact is the police aren't treating anyone as though they matter. Except for their
they're
own
not
cops.
treating
Except
anyone
for their
as
buddies.
as if they matter. But yet, I mean, it's been well documented. Even the FBI will tell you that American law enforcement, I didn't know this a year ago either, American law enforcement is heavily infiltrated, they say, by the KKK and various other white
we covered the
supremacist,
story on Wednesday night about the secret societies in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. There are at least a dozen, it seems, of these essentially gangs within the gang.
Right.
And many of whom are race-based gangs.
Really? Okay.
Police
See, I wondered
officers.
about that. I wondered if I assume some of them must be integrated because the police forces themselves are integrated. But
I don't know the
But it could
makeups.
just break down along racial lines the way prison gangs frequently do.
I don't know the makeups of all the gangs, but at a couple of them were at the very least suggested to have been, whites only or whatever.
Yeah, and of course I don't need to know their makeup to know that when I see blue uniforms, I'm looking at an enemy. So that's all I need to know about them. Their little internal politics doesn't mean anything
So
to me.
how does somebody
but
get
the
in
thing
touch
is,
with
I
you?
would have said at one time that there were like 500 white supremacists left in America. And
you'd be
I
wrong.
realize now that is an absurdly low number.
Okay,
There's more than that.
How does somebody get in touch with this group that you're forming if they want to help or join in some way? Is there a way to do that?
Well, the best thing to do right now, I would say, is send an email to, you can send it to anything at electnobody.com.
Okay.
I would say send it to militia at electnobody.com. That's my election website. While you're there, you can have, I'm running for governor of New Hampshire. It could happen. And
Good.
There are flying fish. So but anyway, you can check out my website there, find out about me. Yeah, website, email is the best way to open, and then I will get you a phone number, whatever means of communication you have.
Out of time. We'll see you tomorrow. freetalklive.com.